Today, let's look at one of the questions asked in Get Help uh, channel in Discord server. So the question is, how do we make auto jumps and collectible objects? So first, look at the first one, which is basically how to create auto jumps. Let's use a pre-made character, which is basically the platform player. Once we get that, when we play it, now we can control the player. Let us reset view and zoom out a bit and then set camera and then play. Now we have a bigger viewing radius. Before we start editing, let's go to view and turn on logic mode. We'll move the end game system. We'll arrange things nicely so that we can edit them. Now we click on the player, go to the details. When we go to the control, we have something called as jump power and jump allowed. Now that we know the jump is inside this code, we can click on the edit. And now we get the logics. Here you can see there's a button node called jump. Now we know this is the button node, and when we click this, this is making the character jump. Now all we need to do is trigger the jump button or trigger whatever the jump node is triggering, so we can do the same thing. Now before we do that, let's set up a small environment where the player auto jumps when he sees a particular object. So we can go to assets, maybe let's search for stone in the models. Maybe we can take the stone. So when the player comes in near the stone, we want him to auto jump. First, let's see what is the object group of this stone. We click on the stone, we go to advanced, we go to object. The stone is in gray color. We can change it to, let's say, yellow group, and we can use something called as raycast or even collision detector. But let's use collision detector. We can use collision detector. We'll drag and drop it inside this, and we'll turn off the gray and turn on yellow, as our stone is in yellow and also gray. But if you see, all the other objects are also in gray, and yellow is very specific to this stone. I mean, if you want, we can still turn off this gray and just keep yellow, but we can still have multiple groups for one object. So for now, let's disable the other one and keep yellow, and go to collision detector and turn on yellow. Now to double check the collision detector is working, we can do a small debug. We can get the UI text. Let's say works. Now when we play it, we're not able to see anything. I think, okay, the text isn't set. We type in work and enter. Okay, so we click on this, work is added. Now when we play, we should see work. So now we can turn this off, visibility off, and when we play, we don't see it. Now when collision on start happens, we can turn the visibility to on. It's a small debugging trick that we can use to see if a node is working. And in case you do not know what's a collision detector node is a node that has a target, and the target here is our player. And in case the player comes in contact with the yellow group, which we have mentioned it here, it can be any other color. Now, because we have disabled all the other colors and turned on yellow, so any time the player comes in contact with an yellow object, which is basically the yellow group of the object, it will tell us that it is in contact, and we have couple of outputs. So it is basically on collision start, which is on contact between these two objects. We can do something, which is basically now to turn on the UI. You see, it works. You can again double check. There's no text, but when we touch the stone, we get the text as it works. So we can let's for now we can still use this. So what we can do is we can go to this button node and see what it is trying to do. So on button press, it is executing jump value 0. So we can do the same. On collision start, we'll execute the value and we'll send in the value 0. If you see, we are doing the same thing as what this is doing. It is sending to can jump compare node and it is sending in the value 0. So that is what we are doing. Can jump to value A and it's 0. We can double check. Oh, sorry, so it is executing, not sending it to it. So delete this. On collision start, we'll execute it. Let's double check. Can jump execute 0. Can jump execute 0. And on end, can jump value is 1. We can do the same. Value is 1. Let's double check it again. Okay, so it is in subtraction, so we can do the same. Come here, can jump value, rather than set, we can subtract and turn off the execution. Always make sure we're doing the same thing. We'll double check it again. So it's can jump, compare value A, subtract 1, do not execute. A subtract 1, do not execute. Now this should work. Yep. Now auto jump works. We can try to double check it again with another stone. As these all the videos are not edited, and I'm also trying to get the solution in real time, so then the video might not be short and might not be straightforward. I might be doing it on the go. It is also a good way to see how a person who knows HypeHype is also trying to do it. So this is how I would do it. Look at the jump. It is trying to execute a couple of things. Now we can do the same thing, and we did it. And that's how we got it working. Now we can change the group of this to yellow and we can play it. Yep. Auto jump works. Our next question is, how do we make collectible objects? We already know collision detector will basically give us, let us know I have come in contact with a certain object. We can use the same node to make collectibles. Now, let me just create a very small playable like a collectible object that is maybe, let's say you collect the fruits fall on the ground and you basically add it, like you have an UI that shows how many you collected. We can try and do that. So before we do that, let's go to build. We can go to pixel art and we can draw ourselves a small apple or a fruit. Not gonna be something really fancy. We can keep it very simple. We can do a 16 by 16 pixel. And let me draw an apple. Not a really good apple, but now this can be a small apple. We can add borders if we want. Let's erase the. Yeah. Now we have a apple. Now we can add a UI node, user interface, containerize it, click on node, go to edit. Now we can add an image. Okay, before that we can add a panel. Sorry, that can be a small bug. So we can go to resolution, simulate a full screen. We can zoom out. We can keep it in the corner, increase this a bit. Now add the image, drag and drop so that it's inside the panel. Now we can go here, click on the image, scroll down. Now we have the apple. Click on the apple. And now if you see the color, we can change the color to white. We have this. We can click on the panel and change the color to transparent. We don't have a transparent, so we'll add, reduce it. Now we have a transparent. We can take a text node, drag and drop again. We can call it apple, increase the size, and we can add a number. So this is gonna be a value. Go to text, remove the text, add a value. Let's say the maximum apple is 100. We'll align it properly. And when we play it, we have this here. So the apple cannot be 100. We go to the text, go to input output, turn on the value, confirm, click OK. Now when we click on this, we have a apple value. We can add a number node, call this, let's say 0, and drag and drop it to apple value. Now when we play, apple value 0. Now let's go to asset, type for apple. We can use this. Let us make this into, always make this into a reusable for apple. Click here, click on edit. Now we have two apples. Now click on the container, move it around. Now this is a duplicate. We can remove this. Click, okay. Now we need to click on the apple. We need to double check the physics is set to unmovable. Now we can go to the group and let's say we can make it into blue group. Turn off the gray. Now come back here. add another collision group, and we can say we can turn off the gray and turn on blue because apple is blue, and we can call this apple, and we can call this collision detector auto jump so that in the future we know what are the nodes doing. Now we need to scatter this around. To keep this video very simple, just manually scatter it around. Now click on the reusable and then scatter it around. Making a reusable is very important because if I do any changes here, it will apply to all the apples that are in the level. Now, now the apples are there. I will play the level and we can see the apple. Now when we walk, the apple is blocking us. Let's make this into dynamic so that it moves around. Now we can say, actually, rather than adding this here, we can delete this and we can click on this object, go to advanced and see this has a collision group which is green. Now we can go to the apple itself and say collision detector. When the apple is in contact with the player, this, I mean, you can do it inside the player, you can do it inside the apple. Like you can do it any way you need, but I feel adding the collision detector inside apple is much more simpler and the direct process. So we can click on the green. So because the player, when you click on the player, you know it is also in green. Now on collision with green, we will use something called as broadcaster. Now we'll click on the broadcast, add, and we can call it Apple. I'll click on the Apple. Now on collision detector, we'll go on collision start, execute the broadcaster. In a moment, I'll explain the whole process, what's going to happen. Now we'll use a broadcast listener. We can click here. There's already Apple which we created. Now from the signal, go to output, convert the link type, click on pass input. We'll set it to 1 and we will add it. So what's going to happen is every time the player touches the apple, this node triggers it and it is sending and it is telling the broadcaster the player has touched the apple. Now you go tell the node that collects the information of how many apples that the player has and just add one to it. So broadcaster is like a tower that is sending a signal. Like if you see the icon, it's an icon of a tower. And if you see here, it's a cycle. It's an icon of a tower receiving the signal. So you can imagine it as it's almost like also calling someone and saying yes, so like I've gotten the apple. So the collision detector is calling the apple, telling you tell this broadcast is that the apple has been collected. Now if you play it, if you see the value is changing, but we don't want the apple to still be around, we want the apple to disappear. So what we'll do is we'll add a destroy node, and from collision detector we can execute this. Now he's collecting it and the apples are being added. Now to make it more colorful, we can always add particle system. Go to FX, click on add, close this, look for a good particle effect. Let's say the star explosion. Click and click on the scene, escape, drag and drop, Now click on the execution and turn this execution off. Now we can click on destroy, and on object destroyed, we can execute it on. And this is how it looks. In case you want to change the color, go to the FX, click on edit, and these are all the emitters. Okay. When you I don't want to complicate this video. I mean, if you still want to just change the color, you can just click on color. Uh, if you need a dedicated video about particle system, please let me know, and I will make a dedicated video for the particle system. We'll change it to red. We'll do the same for all. If star doesn't make sense, we can always change it. Now we can just keep building on this. We can add sound. We can go to asset, go to music. Also, I'm not sure if my screen recording will capture the sound, but if you want to add, you can go to sound, look for, let's say, some pop sound, pop. I'm not sure if it's audible, but or even maybe, let's see if there's something for collect. Let's look for something. I think for now, I mean, you can always look for really good ones. Okay, let's say I just take this one, drag and drop it here. Now on destroy, we can execute. Let me know if this video was really helpful, or if there was any concept that I did not explain well, or if you got confused anywhere, please drop a comment and I'll try and make another video trying to explain a particular concept.